Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. All right, welcome to Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about progress over perfection. This is something that's been playing on my mind yesterday around how we just take steps forward and not obsess on trying to get everything checked and ticked and perfect before execution. We're going to be discussing that topic. And to help me with that topic today, Sasha Coburn coming in all the way from beautiful Queenstown.
I am in the beautiful town of Queenstown this morning. Really, it's just stunning here. There's frost on the ground. It's icy cold, but I'm tucked up warm in my little hotel room, and it's marvellous. I say marvellous.
And it's not a place that has to change its name to Kingstown now.
Well, you wonder. We're just here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, about to celebrate what used to be called Queen's Birthday. So for the entirety of Ish, your life and my life, we've had this public holiday in June called Queen's Birthday. And now we're not having Queen's Birthday weekend, we're having King's Birthday weekend. It just doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well. I think it does nicely bring into focus this whole idea of what the hell are we doing with a king anyway these days? What's that about?
Maybe it'll just feel like when Telecom changed their name to Spark. At the start, it was just like, what are you doing? And then you get your head around it, and now you refer to it as Spark. And now they're rebranding again as one.
Oh, no, that's Vodafone. See,
that's Vodafone.
Yeah, that's their competitor. So that's the risk that you go down when you start messing with names. But, when I go to pay my Spark bill, so this is the bill that is all the kids' mobile phones, our internet at home, the internet in my apartment, all of that stuff is through Spark. But when I go to pay the bill online, I still have it saved in my bank from like 40 years ago as Telecom.
Yeah.
So every month I pay Telecom for my Spark bill. So yeah.
I must admit, I would have loved to have been in the meeting where they were coming up with the new logo, and someone probably had it drawn up on a board, and then someone went, oh, that's a crap idea, went and crossed it all out, and then they stood back and went, that's it.
That's our logo.
The one. That's the logo. So we're talking today about progress over perfection. It's something that's been playing on my mind because I've just been trying to work on a number of different things, and I've kind of got this mantra going on in my head where I want to wake up the next day and go, well, I'm closer today than I was yesterday. And it's that little thing around taking steps and just feel like you're making progress, because some of the things are difficult, some of them aren't difficult, but they're boring. And so it's how do I create a momentum to move myself forward? And I thought, well, we can unpack what I'm kind of going through, and then hopefully it applies to some of the things that people are working through or wanting to get started and haven't been able to take action.
And even if it only applies to you, if you're the only person on the planet right now that is struggling, I think it's worth doing. I think it's worth us spending this time together.
It's good. We always admit that this podcast is more for ourselves than anybody. So one of the things I've kind of been looking at, it's like, how do you just kind of take a step? What can I do today to just move a little bit closer to execution or to making a decision? And that could be as simple as picking up a phone call and talking to someone. Or it could be ticking off one small task, or it might be doing a small amount of time on a specific project. Because once you actually start that progress and do those first steps, you tend to build a little bit of momentum. And I've found over my many years trying to do things that I don't really want to do, that often, even if I'm just going to do it for 3 minutes, or I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes, that often ends up being a longer chunk of time, because you kind of get into it and you're like, oh, well, I've started now, I may as well keep going.
While I'm laughing at you perhaps being the only person with this problem, I'm laughing because everybody has this problem. As far as I know, we all have stuff that we go, oh, it's just hanging over us. And we wake up in the morning and it's still there and we're no further ahead and we feel terrible about it. But then we go and do something else with our day. And so tomorrow morning we wake up and it's still there. We're no further ahead than we were the day before, right? And I think there's a number of different ways to tackle this. So I've got a couple of suggestions and they are contradictory.
Okay.
So, oh, how is that helpful? You're about to say two different things at once. And that's because in whatever situation you find yourself in, there's not just one right way to tackle this. You posited at the start this idea of progress over perfection. And so I think it's really useful to start with our mindset to go, is one of the reasons you don't like starting something or you can't build momentum because you're fixated on things having to be perfect. So until you perfect each stage, you won't move on, or unless the whole thing is going to be perfect, you're not going to do it at all. And I think that's something that gets in our way. So I know, for example, that I can't play tennis super well. And in the past, I was just like, well, I just won't play tennis then because I can't do it really well. And until I can do it really well, I just won't do it. But there's a big gap between not being able to play tennis, needing to practice to get anywhere near good enough to be able to have a game. But intellectually, we go, oh, I don't want to go through all the hardship of learning something. If it can't be perfect, forget it. So we rule it out. But that's not something we can take into our workplaces. There's things that we have to do, even if we're not very good at them. So I think one of the first things that we've got to do is kind of let go of this whole idea of perfection. Like, I think perfection has never mattered less. If you look at, and this is a shocking indictment on our society, if you look at how shit you can be and still be successful, that should tell you all day, every day, that no one cares about perfection anymore. I mean, whatever your politics, how have we arrived at this point in time that a really credible candidate for the presidency of the United States is 80? Like, the best that we've got in that whole, whatever your politics, that side of the political debate, the best they can put up is 80 years old. I'm like, oh, we're not interested in perfection anymore. It's gone. The people that are doing big numbers on social media, many of them can't string a sentence together. I'm like, how are they the thought leaders of our time? Jordan Peterson goes, oh, I'm very successful and my diet consists only of meat. No, you're a dick. Yet really successful. So I think we need to just give ourselves permission to start. Just start. Progress, momentum, moving forward towards the thing. That's the really first thing to get in check. And I wonder for you, is it the perfection thing or is it getting started? Like, what's the trickiest part for you?
Yeah, definitely not the perfection thing. So, 80% the new perfect. I am living in your world with that. Absolutely. So, and I think for me, it's just kind of, sometimes I'll look at it and go, it just seems like such a big thing to do. So by building the momentum of, well, I'm just gonna start. I'm just gonna do this one thing because I know when I wake up tomorrow, I'll be going, well, I'm closer than I was yesterday.
Okay, cool. So then I'm going to introduce these two contradictory ideas. So we've sorted out the mindset. You're not fixated on perfection. So before we get to the two contradictory ideas, the first step is just to break it down. And I know you're really good at doing this, is to say if the task feels too big, break it down into little wee steps. So I would like to run more as an example. But if I wake up in the morning and go, oh, I've got to go for a run, that feels like a big thing in my brain. So instead I go, oh, just get dressed for running. Just put your running costume on. Just put your shoes on. Or just pop out to the gate. Oh, well, now that you're here, jog on, right? So just breaking it down into the little wee parts and just saying yes to the smallest part each time. So I can go, oh no, it's too hard to go for a run today. I can go, oh, yep, I can put my running costume on. Oh, yeah, I can put my shoes on. Yeah, I can probably walk to the gate. Oh, I could probably jog on now. So if you break it down into small achievable parts, then that definitely helps. And it helps build momentum because you are doing a thing that takes you closer. Now, here's the contradictory part. Woo-hoo! Don't prepare for a mind blow. Perhaps I've built it up too much. There's two places that you can start any particular task. One is at the beginning. So what's the first thing that you need to do in order to complete this project? But another really good place to start is actually in the middle, because often doing the first thing is the hardest and the middle bits are easy. Like, that makes no sense. Let's think about if you're writing a report or you've got an assignment at school and it's an essay and you look and it's just a blank page in front of you and you go, fuck, I just don't even know where to begin on this stuff. The introduction is often hard. How do I do the first 10 slides in my presentation? Don't start at the beginning. Just start with the stuff that's coming easily. And that might be the middle bit, or it might be actually the end part of your writing. It might be, the 5 slides that you want to share 5 points on. Do those slides first, and then that's the middle done. And then once the middle's built, you can go, actually, that's the middle. What might the beginning be? If you're getting stuck on starting at the beginning, instead of not starting at all, just pick up something from the middle or pick up something from the end. And you often build momentum by going last, not first.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all?
Oh, no, it does. And it really speaks into that statement, like action creates clarity. And the action
tell me about
doesn't
that.
have to be linear. So it's the blank page. It's like, well, I just don't even know where to start. It's like, well, just start writing. But I don't know what to write. We'll just write anything. Like create some action that gets you going. Yeah, start with the middle bit. Start with the close. Start with a story that you want to tell or whatever it is. Because once you actually start the action, then the clarity starts to come rather than waiting for that clarity to be there at the beginning. Chances are it may not be, but the action does bring the clarity. And so the progress or the action brings momentum as well. And then all of a sudden you're starting to get more done, or you're on your way, or you've at least got started. I do like the idea of you in a running costume, though.
my running suit.
When you call it a running costume, I can imagine you doing cosplay as a marathon runner.
My whole life is cosplay. This afternoon, I'm going to dress up like a motivational speaker. I'm going to go, what would a motivational speaker wear when they go to give a talk? I know. I'm going to put that costume on.
Brilliant. So one of the things I have found useful, and I kind of referred to it earlier, is short little time constraints where it's like a 3-minute or a 5-minute. I was doing a workshop for some managers just recently, and we needed to do a brainstorm on a topic. And typically what you do is, you give them their hour or whatever, and they're going to go away and they're going to do their brainstorm, and then they're going to come back again.
Give them some coloured pens.
And their coloured pens and their flip charts and their post-it notes. But I just said, look, I'm going to give you 12 minutes to basically solve this issue, right? And they were like, 12 minutes. And I'm like, well, if I give you an hour, you're just going to spend pretty much 48 minutes of it discussing other stuff or how you might attack it. So we're just going to give you 12 minutes, which is probably all you were going to do in the brainstorming part of it anyway. And we just put the pressure on and the time constraint. And at the end of it, they had to admit, they said, yeah, we probably got the similar result to what we would have got if we'd had the longer amount of time. But sometimes the longer amount of time seems like it's too long. By shortening it up, you don't have the option of not getting started.
And I love that 3-minute approach to my running as well. Like, no joke. If you want to train to run a marathon, you don't start by running 42 Ks. You start by running for 2 minutes. And then, hey, tomorrow go for a minute more. And then maybe add a minute more after that. You start by in small lots and then incrementally grow. But you are building this idea of progress and you are building momentum.
Yeah. Another thing I've found useful is to get some leverage on yourself to create a little bit of urgency. So recently we had a toilet in our house.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That new.
Thank you. We're pretty stoked that finally we've got an inside toilet. No, so we were going, it was just before we went to Fiji, and this
Oh my
toilet's
God, you went to
older.
Fiji. The proper ripping off you. Inside Lou, Fiji. You're on fire.
I am living the dream right now. And anyway, this toilet's a bit older, so the cistern is actually kind of half into the wall. And I went to go into the toilet. When I stepped onto the lino tile, this little bubble came out, and I was like, that's a bit weird. And then I pushed down again, and a little bit more came out, and I backed up, and the the carpet that kind of stopped by the door was wet. And I was like, oh no, no way that this has happened. So basically what had happened is the copper pipe had split and it had been leaking probably for months.
Oh, just leaking water or leaking wee-wees?
Just leaking water, thank goodness. So not the dirty water, the clean water. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? So shut off the shut off the water to the system, and that stopped, I guess, the leak. And then I went to Fiji, and I'd say, kids, just don't go in that toilet. You have to use the outside loo. So anyway, when I got back, I was like, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I'm just going to fix it. So I just basically pulled up one of the planks to see how bad it was, hit the floor with a hammer, and then that went through. So I was like, well, I'm committed now. So by just getting some leverage of just going, I'm just going to smash a hole in the floor, it kind of forced me to have to take action on it really, really quickly, as opposed to maybe just shutting the door, having a think about it, getting someone over to assess it, all of that stuff.
Like, I love this, because what you're saying is make a small problem massive, so you have to address it. That's really it, isn't it? It's like actually amplify the problem so that it can no longer just be pushed to one side in your brain as a small thing. Make it a big thing, increase the stakes, get leverage on yourself. I like that a lot.
It's the example of telling someone that you're going to do something. It's leverage, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's, if you lose some weight and you're worried about putting weight back on, throw away all your clothes that no longer fit you. So if you put the weight back on, you'll be naked. There's some leverage for you.
Nudie leverage. We had this great legal case that I cannot remember anything about other than it contains this expression called crossing the Rubicon. And the idea is that once you cross the Rubicon, there's no going back. I don't even know what the Rubicon was. I had to Google, what's a Rubicon? I think it's kind of like a metaphor, I think. I don't know. You Google it.
Oh, do you want me to ask Siri?
Please, ask Siri.
Hey, Siri, what's a Rubicon? A Rubicon is a bounding or limiting line.
There we go, right? So you cross the Rubicon. You go across this limiting line. So I kind of view it a bit like a metaphorical bridge. And the idea is you cross over this metaphorical bridge and then you burn it behind you. So there's no going back. So if what you want is progress and momentum, what can you do to take a step and then remove the possibility of going backwards? Yep. So your idea about, if you change your shape, burn all your old clothes and there's no going back. Or you break up with a toxic boyfriend and then you just change your phone number and you delete all your stuff. It's like, that's it, I'm done. I cannot go back. That's one way of progressing momentum. Just throw the ball out there, chase the ball. This kind of throw the ball idea, like across this bridge. This also is about like setting artificial deadlines. So let's say you've got to do a presentation to some colleagues at your workplace, and it's up to you kind of when you plan it and you haven't started your presentation yet. The very first thing I do is book the meeting, because otherwise I'll never get round to starting it. But if I create the artificial deadline where I say, okay, guys, we're going to meet next Tuesday, then I know that I have to do some work on it. I have to get across that Rubicon. There's no going back now. It's go. So a little bit like you'll make the problem bigger, get leverage on yourself. Think about all of the things that would make you do the work, like if you had to present it to someone else or if you've got a deadline, and create those things even if they are artificial.
Yeah, deadlines are great. Yeah.
I have a thing that helps me, and it might sound really silly, but as I've got older, I have these increasing kind of nagging thoughts about stuff that needs to be done. Oh, I must remember to do this, and I must remember to do that. And when I was younger, I just would remember. And now that I'm older, I don't remember. So I might have 3 or 4 times a thought like renew your passport. Oh, you got to remember to renew your passport. Don't forget to renew your passport. And on the one hand, what you can do is you can make a note somewhere in your diary, renew your passport, and that's useful. It's useful to have a system like that. But I've got a new rule for myself, and because I'm effectively self-employed, I've got space in my day. I've got this new rule, which is think the thing, do the thing. Mm-hmm. So if I have the thought, renew your passport, I literally just stop everything that I'm doing and take a step towards renewing my passport, get the forms, get it done. If I'm thinking about, I've got to bring the washing in, I just go and bring the washing in. If I'm thinking about, I need to ring someone about a work problem, I just ring them. rather than take the mental energy of, oh, I hope I remember to do that later and I mustn't forget that. And the time that it takes me to have all of those thoughts or to write it down in my diary, I might as well just do the thing. So you're thinking about going for a run. Oh, yeah, just put your running costume on and go for a run. I know you want to run at particular times, but the concept, I think, is really helpful. I think we spend a lot of our emotional and intellectual energy thinking about things that haven't happened or need to happen, and we could just cut all that bullshit out by actually doing the thing.
I'd love to see you in a board meeting one day. You're just like thinking about running. Boom! Then the running costume's on.
Sorry, guys, I've had a thought. It's exactly the same. You know that this is true. When you wake in the middle of the night at about 3 a.m. and you go, oh, I need to go to the loo.
Yeah.
And you go, no, I don't. No, I don't. I can just roll over and go back to sleep. I don't need to get fully awake. I can just go back to sleep. No, you can't.
No,
you need to go to the loo. No, I don't. No, I don't. And you waste about 25 minutes arguing with yourself where you are not asleep but not awake, when really what I've learned, you need to go to the loo. Do it. Dump it. Get back to bed. Get back to sleep as fast as you can. I mean, these are ancient wisdoms that I'm learning now that I'm nearly 50. I mean, do you have that same thought?
Every night, but it's also, if it's not the toilet, it's remembering to do something. So the idea will come and I go, I must remember that. I need to just get up and write it down, because otherwise I won't go back to sleep just telling myself I need to remember the thing. I need it off my radar, onto a note, and put it in my wallet, so that it's the first thing that I see when I'm going to go get my coffee in the morning or whatever it is. It's there, and I can just forget about it.
So much this. So much this.
Another way to maybe just try to create some momentum and just get some progress is to really identify the why around why you need it done, or why you want to get it done. Because I think sometimes in the distraction of everything that's going on, we lose sight of maybe why we set the task, why we set the project, why it was important. So being able to get back to that and go, why did I have to get that done again? Oh, that's right. If I get that done, it means X, or it accomplishes this. Being able to focus on that really, really quickly to then go, okay, so I do need to make it the priority. That's the reason. And what's my first step, or a step that I can take right now, so that I wake up closer than I was yesterday.
What I love about this is all the stuff that we're talking about is all the answers. You're really good at this stuff.
Yeah.
But yet it's hard to implement, right?
Yeah. And even when you're good at it, there are certain things that are just harder than others. And that's probably something that I need to unpack at some point. Like, why are these couple of tasks more problematic than normal ones? Like, what is it about them that I'm either talking myself out of it or not wanting to start? Yeah, because that's probably part of the issue, is maybe the real why I'm behind it isn't compelling enough, or I'm just like, I don't really want to do it, so I'm just not going to.
Yeah, and you don't really care enough about it.
Yeah.
Or you don't believe in it. It's like, oh, this is somebody else's stuff.
Something else's problem.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. But identifying that's going to be a critical part of solving it too, isn't it? Using all these great tips that you've shared today, taking your own advice.
Yeah, go back and listen to this again.
Yeah, I love that expression. A friend of mine wrote in a song years ago when I was at university. It said, "It seems I didn't listen to myself because all my good advice seems to go to someone else." I think that's the human condition, isn't it?
Yeah.
The human condition.
That is so good. So if you have got something that you need to do or need to complete, it is important. You know your why and you just can't get started. Man, you've just got to find a way to maybe just pick a short amount of time to just do a step. Doesn't have to be the start, could be something in the middle. Or just find a way to do something that just moves you slightly closer by bribing yourself. If I do that, I can do this. Or by finding some leverage on yourself. Or
crossing the Rubicon.
Crossing the Rubicon.
Make the hole in the floor bigger.
Make the hole in the floor bigger. Tell someone, get the leverage to get yourself started. But don't obsess on the perfection. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to make some progress, because action will create your clarity, and that will take you closer to getting the damn thing done.
Amen. I want to know, Ishmael, do you remember, was it before Christmas or in the holidays, we discussed that you were going to write some writing? Was it fiction you were going to write? Were you writing a story?
I think
Or was it long form journaling or something?
I think it was long form journaling. I think it was the same conversation around you running 10K.
Yeah, 10, piss off. It was 2K. You were going to be standing 2Ks away with your reading. And if I could run 2Ks to you, you would then let me read what you had written for your long form. So, have you done anything about that? Okay, I have done nothing.
I have been journaling more.
Oh, great. Okay, so I've done nothing about running 2K. So why don't we recommit to go, break it down into little wee bits, start in the middle if we need to. I'll put my running costume on and we'll set a date for some point in the future where I'm going to run 2Ks to you to read your thing. It's going to be quite fun at the start because I'm going to drive 2 kilometres away and then run back to you.
And I'm going to be using my 20 minutes
to write some long form. Also, I know enough about running to know it was very rude of you to suggest that it would take me 20 minutes to run 2Ks, but it probably will.
Well, it depends if you stop for a peanut slab stash.
This is true. Or to change my costume, halfway costume change.
Tripping over your cape. All right, hey, the thing I want to talk about is jury duty.
Ah, yes. How cool is that for once I made a TV recommendation?
You did. So we binged it in 2 days, me and Joe, and then convinced our girls to watch it. And then Emma's now watching it with us, so we're watching it again. So we're down to the final 2 episodes. Oh, man, that was so good. I loved the way that they literally filmed it like Modern Family or like The Office. Like it's literally a TV show mockumentary. And then that zinger. Oh, wow.
It's super great. And I keep reading articles about how they filmed it because they had to make it look like they were filming a mockumentary with just like 2 cameras, but they were actually making a TV show of a mockumentary. So they had hidden cameras everywhere to make it happen. So quite a feat. And I think it's worth a watch. Yeah,
definitely. And I don't think it like to give someone a little bit of premise about it because you kind of find out immediately as soon as you watch the very first minute of it. But basically, it's a documentary about being in a jury and about the American jury system. Everybody in it is an actor except for one guy
who genuinely thinks he's on a jury.
And they have just put the weirdest characters and situations happening all around him. And at one point, he just goes, oh man, it's just like reality TV. Because they are just engineering the craziest things. And he's such a nice guy.
He's so lovely. Don't you just want to marry him? I'm just like, oh, he's so great.
He's tall though.
Is he?
I didn't notice it the first time, but Joe kept pointing it out in the second one. And I was like, oh yeah, he's tall, man. He'd be like 6'4".
Yeah, fair enough. Can't marry him. Aside from the fact that I'm already enormously happily married.
The parts don't line up.
Yeah.